But before we're gonna do a quick icebreaker, I just want to show you like what's these 3 topics. I think we have a slide about this. We have preparation before a video interview. During the video interview is a super important point as well. Is like a key point. We're gonna talk a bit about quality of video, quality of audio, and then later we're gonna connect all of this together and what you have to do also after a video interview. I think you also have a session about this, about social medias and how important it is not just do something and also show that you are doing. In this case, like to try to motivate other people. But we're gonna start with the icebreaker. And the icebreaker, I hope you all have a box of matches. If you don't have, I have my one here. So then I can borrow for you, kind of online match for you. So then for this quick game, is super simple. I'm gonna start doing myself. We're just gonna take one match off the box. I'm gonna call a volunteer. We're gonna light the match. And there's 2 different rules. When the match is like on, when the fire is on, I have to talk about myself. I can't stop talking if the light is on. But if the light turns off, like if the match dies, I have to stop talking immediately. Okay? So we have to follow these rules. So are you ready? I'm gonna do first myself, and then later I want a volunteer. Okay? If I'm looking like to the right here, is because I have a second screen to see all of you, because there's a lot of people and I cannot see just through my phone. So I'm gonna start and then pay attention. Okay? 3, 2, 1. Okay, my name is Filipe. I'm from Brazil. I have 24 years old. Now I work at KISK. I'm the events coordinator here. Before I work as the marketing assistant, the PR assistant. I also have a YouTube channel. I spent like 5 years of my life doing YouTube videos. I'm not a professional at this, but I love create content for the internet and also talk about scouts. I'm here for 1 year so far, and done. Okay, super quick. Now I'm gonna ask a volunteer. Someone has a box of matches, or if you don't, I can light the match for you. If you have this, just show. Otherwise, I can just choose a volunteer. Oh, Julia, of course. Are you ready, Julia? Thank you for volunteering.
Let's go.
Okay, so I'm gonna light the match. 3, 2, 1, start.
Hi, everybody. My name is Julia. I am also 24 years old. I work for the Brazilian Scouts here in Brazil. And I am also a volunteer at Scout Movement for 7 years now. I know Filipe because he is very famous here in the Scout Movement. And yeah, so.
Ooh, good. Anyone else?
Good job.
Anyone else want to do it? Like one or two volunteers? Maya, can you turn the match on now? Because there's some fire detectors.
Oh, we have a volunteer. Hamidou.
We have one?
Yeah, I'll do mine.
Oh,
okay.
I have a volunteer from my NSO as well.
Okay, who's gonna go first?
Hamidou?
Okay,
yeah,
are you
hello
ready?
everyone.
Okay, I'm gonna light the
Yeah,
match.
but
You
I
ready?
don't have much. Okay.
I'll do it for you. So watch Mike and then we'll go on that. Okay, ready? 3, 2, 1. Oops.
Okay, yep. Hello everyone, my name is Hamidou Diallo. I am from
It went out with the
Niger
fan.
Oh, it's off. Oh my god.
Wait, I think you should get a retake.
Yeah, do it again. Do it again.
Go.
I can do it. I have a match here. I have like a pro skills with matches. Are you ready to do again? Hamidou?
Yep.
Are you ready? Okay,
Yeah,
3, 2,
I'm
1.
okay. Hello everyone, my name is Hamidou. I'm from Niger and I'm 31. I'm scout for 15 years and I'm very, very loving with the communication things. And oh my God.
Ooh, ran off.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, now just because I really want to use like this exercise further in the session, I'm gonna light the last match, and with your microphones off, I really want you to talk about yourselves. Okay, so you don't have to turn your microphone on, otherwise it's gonna be like a completely mess. So we're gonna turn the last match on, and please talk loud about yourself, not just inside your mind. So you have to speak loud about yourself. You can speak anything, but the same rules. If the match is on, you speak. If the match is off, you stop. Are you ready, everybody? Okay, 3, 2, 1, let's go. Ooh, interesting. Super cool. Really? The match still on, keep going, keep going. Still on and done. Done. Nice. There's 2 things that I really want to share with you about this activity. It's a super quick activity, kind of an icebreaker. The first thing, we never know how long the match is gonna be on. So it's super nice to realize that when you just have a time of a match to speak about yourself, you're just gonna speak about things that is really important for you. For me, for example, be at KISC and my YouTube channel and be at Scouting is the things that really matters for me at the moment. Like other people also talk about social medias. It's something that you are involved in right now. Julia also talk about Scouts. It's super nice. So if you don't know what really matters for you, you can do this exercise. Also, it's super cool to do like kind of an icebreaker. If you want to interview someone that you really don't know much about, then you can do this exercise. And the second topic, it show us 2 different kind of people. For some people, it's really easy to keep talking about the same topic for ages. If you ask me to talk about my YouTube channel or about KISC, I can speak for like 1 hour without anyone else to help and give me questions and like motivated me to keep talking. I can speak for this for ages. And some people, even for like easy topics like talk about yourself, that should be the thing that you know most because it's yourself, you get stuck and then you really need help. I don't know if when you do this exercise by yourselves in the last match, if it was easy or hard. I assume that for some people would be hard, for some people would be easy. And if you are kind of people that it's hard, it's okay. There's a lot of people like this around the world. And that's why we need to learn how to lead an interview. And through this session, we're gonna pass through some points. So then we can pass to the next slide, because then we're gonna have some quick hints for you.
Hi all, so basically this is me. I'm going to, going back to the slide that Filipe introduced in the beginning, where there was sort of the preparation and the during and the post interview. I'm going to go back to the preparation bit. And one of the first things, obviously, when you're doing a video interview, once you have that planned, the next thing that you're going to be thinking is what am I going to ask? How am I going to formulate my questions so I can get the most out of my interviewee? So one of the easiest things to do is you've got to think, like when you're writing your questions, think about your goal. What is it? What is the story that you want to tell? And once you have that figured out, you can kind of work backwards from there. So like say you're interviewing a scout about a challenge that they've completed, think about what you want to shine the most. Is it the scout? Is it the challenge? Is it the wider initiative, the program? Is it a badge? Like what is the overall, kind of message that you want to shine really out of this? And as, we're talking about video interviews, think about who's going to be watching. Is it other scouts? Is it donors? Is it partners? Are you trying to attract new people to scouting? All these elements will impact the questions that you ask, the tone even that you put into these questions, and then also think about what's going to be used, what the interview is going to be used for later. Are you going to be providing quotes for other communications materials, like stories on the websites or quotes, or, these video interviews are wonderful because they can be repackaged in so many different ways. I've put together a couple of tips that might help, when you're sort of writing these questions or thinking about how to formulate them. And one of the most basic things at the most fundamental level is to make sure, that your questions are clear, unambiguous, and fair, and preferably short. Shorter questions are just generally easier to understand, and thus make them generally easier to answer. Make sure that you're writing questions that are clear. Check for spelling, for grammar, for anything that could be potentially misunderstood, misinterpreted. This includes colloquial language, sayings. Basic terminology can mean something completely different, obviously, as you know, in one interpretation of a language than in another. My last point on that, when I say fair, I mean to avoid questions that have a slant towards an opinion or make an assumption about an interviewee. So when you're saying, don't ask questions like, I'm sure you'll agree with me when I say, because you're already planting an idea into someone's head and you're assuming they agree with you, never assume that that person has the same views as you. You know, this is the chance for you to understand that person's, the view of the person who you're interviewing. Second point, ask open-ended questions. Obviously, you ask a yes or no question, you're going to get a yes or no answer, which is not very informative. So look, instead of asking, you know, do you think something is important? Ask how it's important, just little kind of rephrases. Try to avoid asking more than one question at a time. This is a very difficult one for me to adhere to because I like bunching multiple questions together. But when you ask multiple questions, people kind of switch off when you're asking two questions. They'll tend to only answer one. So it's always best that you split your questions. You have one question and then you ask a next question. At the same time, don't ask too many. It can be overwhelming, tiring for the person that you're interviewing. Depending on your output, try to keep to about 6 maximum, 3 to 5, and in my personal opinion is a great number. At the same time, again, going back to this, don't be afraid to ask follow-up questions or ask for further explanation if something isn't clear. I know there's a temptation to stick to a script once you've written your series of questions, but often if you stick to a script, you risk 2 things. You risk switching off and not actually paying attention to the answers. And, or the second is that you could end up missing really important pieces of information. So, you know, as you're doing this, think about your audience. In the end, you know, you want all your questions answered. If you leave your audience wondering something, if you think your audience will ask a question, well, then you've missed something. And my last point is my favorite point. Every interview should always end with, I don't know if it's an actual term, but this is one that I use, is called the golden question. It's always ask if there's anything that you've missed that you would like people to talk about. Often, I find anyways, that's the best question because it really lets people sort of, they have an idea of what they want to say, and this is often the time that they want to say it. Then could we move to the next slide, please? And then with that in mind, you can kind of start formulating, with these tips in mind, you can kind of start formulating a sort of the basic wording and the outline of your interviews. But there does tend to be, you know, this is like a basic structure that does tend to work with most interviews. Obviously, you can tailor it to your needs or whatever it is, but this generally tends to work. Is that the first question is always, like we've done in this session, is an introduction. You know, get the person to introduce themselves. And then you can always talk a little bit about yourself. You can make it chatty. It sort of relaxes them. It gives better answers. You could even tell a joke to sort of, you know, lighten the mood, I guess. The second question is sort of tell me a little bit about your project, but tell me about it from the most basic level. I always like to say, like, pretend that I'm an elderly relative and you're explaining it to me like I know nothing about it, because there will be people who will be watching the interview who know nothing about the subject that you're talking about. And once you've gotten those details, then you can move more into sort of the meat part, you know, what the project or whatever the activity sets out to do, its aims, any challenges, any outcomes. And then, you know, it's always nice to sort of throw it forward. You know, where are we going from here? What's next? And then the last question is the one that I mentioned in the previous slide. You know, always ask, what do we miss? What is there anything else that you would like to talk about? And on that note, my slides are done, and I'm going to pass it over to Filipe.
Cool, thank you, Maya. Also, I'm gonna keep talking a little bit more about the prep before an interview. I think a super important point is the motivation for the interview. As like you are in charge of the PR in your NSOs, so it's need to be you that's gonna lead the interview, or you can call someone else that has like a better motivation to lead this interview. It's super important when you are talking in front to someone and you're gonna ask questions if you are really interested in this. And if you are not, if you're like, okay, I don't know much about this person or this project, you have to be ready for this. If you have the objective of share the idea of a project or share like any campaign or like a new badge or a new project, anything for someone in your NSO, you have to know about it. So you have to search a lot And even like, if you, okay, I'm already searched a lot of things, I know everything about this, but you have to look motivated to do the interview. You have to look enthusiastic to listen about, even though like, okay, now you know about this project. Let's take an example. If you're gonna talk about Bear Grylls, I think everyone knows Bear Grylls. Imagine that you got the opportunity to talk with Bear Grylls for like 5 minutes. You really want to use these 5 minutes to get like a lot of informations. What do you really want to know about Bear Grylls? About his time on TV, about how he is to be like a promoter for scouting, like ambassador, or want to know about his personal project, his personal life. He's releasing a movie now. You want to know about this because you have to search about this. And imagine that you have someone else that is completely passionate about Bear Grylls and is really easygoing, like has like it feels comfortable in front of the camera. Why not take like a youth from your NSO and put this person to have this opportunity? I think this is super nice as well. So now you're ready for the interview, and then we're gonna step ahead and go for the actual interview. Before we talk about how do you behave in the interview, we're gonna talk a bit about equipments, camera, audio, video. I prepare like a few different things that I usually use here when I'm recording videos. And we don't have to go too fancy to have a good quality. In this meeting, for example, most part of you that has your camera on, nowadays with a phone or with a laptop, we already have enough quality in video and in audio. With my phone, for example, I just using my back camera to have a bit more of quality. I have earphones on. So with a basic earphones, if we're not talking about something super fancy, I think this quality is enough. We have to do the best we can with what we have. So this would be like the first stage, talking a little bit more about videos. If you're using like the video during the interview, try to use some window in front of you. Right in front of me, I have a big window that gives me some light, so it's easier to people to see myself, to see if I have someone else, like the person that I'm interviewing on side of me. If we have like in different rooms as well, try to ask for the person that you are interviewing. Maybe this person doesn't have knowledge about video and about audio, and basically just tell this person, oh, okay, can you please use earphones or sit in front of a window if you don't have nice lights in your house? We have to expect that the second person don't know nothing about audio and video. So prepare like a briefing and send this person, okay, this is some hints, like some pro tips that you must follow to like have the best quality you can with just your phone. If you're like stepping ahead again, we can use cameras. I don't know the reality in your NSO if you have equipment, but if you have a camera, of course, go for the camera. Is a specific equipment to do like this job. So why not use a camera? When we don't have these natural lights like a window, we can use LED lights. I think this is the name in English. In Portuguese, the translation is LED. This is like a white light that is super cool. If you have like one or two put in different parts of the room, then you're gonna have a best illumination if you don't have a window. Talking about microphones, we can have like a microphone just for a camera. I don't know if you ever watch podcasts, but we have nowadays super common and easy to find these stable microphones. So you can connect to your phone or connect to your laptop, and then you're gonna have a really good quality in audio. When we talk about interviews, I think the audio is such an important part. Nowadays, podcast is super famous around the world, and not everybody has a really good internet connection to see a video properly. So they're gonna put the quality a little bit lower, but the audio really matters. So if you have a good audio that people can listen carefully, like listen properly, I think this make difference. And also you can always go like super fancy with fancy cameras, fancy microphones, fancy headsets, but then depends again of the reality that you have at your home and at your NSO, okay? And then leading the interview, we have to, is a lot about, for me, is a lot about practice, and you have to feel comfortable leading the interview. Something super important is active listening. When you are listening to someone, it's different when you make the question and then you start to look around and then you start to look to your phone. Even though you have notes, you start to look to your notes. You have to be really careful about this because in a video interview, you are the person there that has to be there to listen, to make the question and also to listen. If during a video or during a live stream, for example, the person that you are interviewing is not seeing the people behind the phone, behind the cameras. So they're not seeing the crew, like the audience. So it's really important. Keep eye contact, keep listening, and agree if you agree, of course, but show that you care. Take part of the conversation as well. Depends of how you're gonna lead the interview. If you want to look like more just a conversation, it's like two people just having a talk, a nice chat, and then you're gonna figure out the questions along the way. Or if you're gonna do like question, answer. In both situations, it's super important to be present, not just be there, but be present in the conversation. Okay. Again, the second topic I put there is enthusiastic. Be enthusiastic. This word again, I'm not a native speaker, but you have to have enthusiasm during the conversation. And this is like a tricky point. Of course, let's take the example of Bear Grylls. If I'm talking about the movie that he will release, of course, you're going to be, oh, and I heard that you're going to release a movie. Actually, I saw on your Instagram, that's true. And then let him talk about this. And if I'm going to talk about, okay, I also know that you have a project where you help people around the world and you try to like achieve some SDGs, is different kind of questions. One required more enthusiasm from me, so I have to hype the question, and the other one just because it's a little bit more seriously. Of course, not just because the movie is not serious and find solutions for SDGs. It's more relevant, but you have to like find the right pace for each question, and this comes with practice. Even though I don't have Bear Grylls in front of me now, I can pretend that the person that you want to make the question is in front of you, and practice. When it becomes about video and about public speaking, even though you are not the person that is like answering the questions, you have to be really comfortable in front of cameras. And the only way to be comfortable in front of cameras, it's being in front of cameras. So I think practice before like the actual interview is really cool, and it's really important as well. And timing, I already passed through this. And then let's go to the after an interview. It's super amazing to talk about Bear Grylls and be there with him. But if I just do this interview and after that I don't share, I don't talk about it, just the people who get access to this interview, to this information, when I did, will be like happy and see what we produce together. But if after this I keep sharing, like keep working on it, again, I think you all have a session with Lynn probably, or with the I don't remember with who, but you have a session about how important is to keep promoting a project even after the project is done. We talk a lot about this in MOP project and Message of Peace projects. We did one here at KISS also, and it's super important when you do a project, you share this. Maybe the idea of share a project after you finish or during you are doing this, motivate another people to do as well. Okay, and then I think we go for a quick exercise now. I think we have one more slide. So I'm gonna need everyone, because it's your opportunity to interview Bear Grylls. So in 5 minutes, Bear Grylls is gonna walk through that door, and I'm gonna choose someone to read 3 questions for Bear Grylls. So you're gonna have 5 minutes. You can do your search. So you can use Instagram, you can use Google. What is relevant for Bear Grylls now? So you have like, be creative. You have 5 minutes to elaborate 3 questions. Okay, just 3 questions. He's just gonna answer 3 questions. Are you ready? I actually gonna do this as well. Let me take a pen. So 5 minutes enough? I'm gonna
I'll set a timer.
Okay, perfect.
5 minutes is good, and I'd love to hear from some different people than earlier. So
okay, timer
thank
is
you,
off.
Emily.
Thanks, Emily. See you later.
If you're like watching this after in YouTube, you can also do in your home, okay? Also, when you are doing this, remember the structure that Maya also talked about. Don't start with the hype question. Start with an easygoing question to make the guest, make Bear Grylls feel comfortable. I don't know if he already gave a lot of interviews. Maybe it's his first time. And then you go for like a super hype one, and then later you can bring the mood down again and it's like slow down the pace. How many time we still have, Maya? 2 minutes, maybe?
Three actually.
3. Okay.
I think we've just had someone join. So for their reference, we're just in the middle of an exercise on creating interview questions for Bear Grylls, and there's 2 minutes and 46 seconds left.
Okay, I think because of timing, we have like 5 minutes to the end of the session. We can start. If someone already have the 3 questions and want to share, you can share in the chat. If you feel comfortable, you can turn on your microphone, and then we go through like 2 or 3 different people to see the questions. And if you're shy, I can start. I would ask for Bear Grylls to start. What do you eat for breakfast this morning? Why not? Maybe we're gonna catch him like in a, oh, haha, nobody never asked me this question, is maybe a good start with a joke, because I don't know him like personally, but probably he's really comfortable with cameras and everything, and it's okay to start with a joke if I'm doing this more in a personal way. I like to try to keep a conversation with him. And then later, I definitely gonna ask about the movie, because I know that is something that he's posting in Instagram every single day now. So it probably is the biggest project from him now. So I would definitely ask about this. And then we can ask a final question to bring the mood down. Like, okay, tell me 3 things in your life that you didn't done yet and you want to do it. And then we can have like a bit more conversation about this. These would be my 3 questions for Bear Grylls. Anyone else want to share? Let me see if someone wrote in the chat also.
Even if you couldn't come up with 3 and you only have 1 or 2, that's
Yeah,
also
just one, it's fine.
You know, there are no wrong questions. It's interesting to know what you guys would find interesting about Bear Grylls. So please raise your hand.
So I have a question here. I elaborated a question. Can I say it? Okay, so it's a little bit more serious question and focused on scouting. And it's like, you've been appointed as the first chief ambassador of the Scout movement in 2018. And I would like to know what is it about scouting that made you accept this invitation? And I hope him to talk about, I don't know, help young people learn new skills and stuff. So yeah, I think that could develop a nice conversation.
Cool, amazing. Thank you, Julia. We have one question in the chat from Billy. If he can describe the awesome morning. Super cool is something that he always talk about in Instagram and stories as well.
I'm unfamiliar with that. What is the awesome morning for anyone else who doesn't know what it is?
Yes, for the awesome morning is because everything starts if you have the right day. So when you have the right day, so you need to have the right morning. to set up your energy, to set up your emotion and everything. So the awesome morning is the way you set up your morning to start everything right, have a full enough, very meaningful day. So the top of question is describe the awesome morning of the crew to have everything right in his day.
Cool, thank you. Okay, so I think if anyone else wants to share, feel free to go to the chat and share. And also, I think now we're gonna open for questions, like general questions about the full session. If you have any question, we're more than happy to answer for you, if we know the answer, of course.
Yeah, so as Felipe said, please do, this is your opportunity to ask questions. One thing that we didn't mention is Felipe, I know he touched on this before, he's one of our Scoutfluencers. So there's this network that Lynn set up, this made a network of like micro-influencers. So he really has like a, a good foothold in this area. So please do, ask him, anything about the, about this area. I'm sure he'll be able to give a lot of insight in this. You can either raise your hand or put it in the chat.
Yeah, and so like Felipe and Maya are both very humble people. So if I can just toot their horns for them, I asked them to do this session because Maya has a background in journalism as well, which helps, with all of this background and help on how to ask questions. So you can also take advantage of that and ask her questions as well. But she's here every month, and Felipe is not. So, but you can always ask Maya questions related to this and media as well. And Felipe's YouTube channel has over 10,000 subscribers. And I don't know if you know how YouTube works, but getting 10,000 subscribers is not easy. That's a really, really big accomplishment. So, so that's a really amazing area of expertise. And I have to also say that that is for content that is all related to, or a lot of it is related to scouting, and is in Portuguese. So it's very, very niche what he's done, and it's very impressive. So yeah, if you have questions about this, these are the right people to be talking to.
If we don't have any questions from the group, I have a question. So as Lynn said, I have a bit of a background in journalism. And one of the first, actually the first video interview I ever did was terrible. I had prepped everybody, I had written these questions, I had given the questions to these people in advance, we'd run through them, everything was going fine. They were really nice, welcoming, very relaxed people. But as soon as I hit the record button, they froze. And I tried everything that I could think of, and nothing worked. We even re-recorded all the questions again. Still, we couldn't use the video, it was that bad. So Felipe, if you have any tips on how to kind of create that rapport with the person you're talking to, get them to relax, that would be great.
Okay, well, I've been recording videos from like 5 or 6 years. And as I said, if you go for my very first YouTube video is like the same. I was not super comfortable in front of the camera. And for me, it's like all about practice. And if you are with someone that really looks comfortable, you make this other person feel comfortable too. I already recorded videos with other people that was not usually not every time in front of cameras. So I always try to keep the other person comfortable as well. You don't have to hit the record button straight away. Sometimes you don't even have to tell exactly when you start to record, because sometimes this trigger of, okay, I'm starting to record now, then the person froze completely. So you can start the conversation, oh, the camera is not on yet, and then keep talking. If it's not live, of course, if it's live, you always want to tell the person that you are going live. But if it's not a live scenario, if you're gonna edit the video, you can make keep this clear for the person. A lot of people don't know that we work a lot after a video, so you can edit, you can cut, you can take things all out, you can do again, you can record again, and that's how it works in a video scenario. So I think you just have this chat with the person before, try to make the person feel comfortable, and you don't even have to go that far. I think 2 years ago I did a Jota Joti. It was in English. It was my first experience in English. It was completely different from now because I didn't have practice in English. I was reading all the time like a text, and doesn't seem natural. I don't know if Kik is still here, but Kik can tell more about this later. And in this scenario, even though I'm super comfortable in front of cameras, I was not comfortable speaking in English, for example. And then even for me, that was super easy. 4 years recording videos was like, it's fine. Well, for me, it was like I froze in front of the camera, I froze in front of everyone. It's like, oh my God, what should I do now? So this is normal. It's a learning curve, and everyone gonna pass through this. You're not gonna start being an expert. Yeah, that's it.
Thank you. We've had a
Sorry. I was just going to say, I was actually going to ask the same, almost the same question, because when we had our event with MOP Heroes in Saudi recently, I did interviews with 12 of those MOP Heroes, and it was the first time that I'd really done something like that. And I was like, okay, well, learning by doing, we're in scouting, we'll figure this out. And I did find that I was surprised to learn that some people had absolutely no problem speaking live in front. We actually had Princess Samia of Saudi Arabia came to listen to their stories, and they were presenting in front of her. And I didn't really see anyone even freeze in that scenario, but alone in a room with me and a cameraman, some people froze. So it really showed me how different, like even people who look completely comfortable can freeze in front of a camera. So like naturally I did try to make them laugh or just ask them personal questions or whatever, but in some cases it can be very real, like anxiety. So in one case we stopped the interview because she was just very, very anxious in front of a camera. So yeah, those are really useful tips that I know I'm going to use, and probably the others will as well. And yes, I'm going to share the link to Filipe's channel here. It was requested. It's actually 32,000 subscribers. I thought it was 10,000.
32.
That's what the sound was. It was the ad when I opened your channel.
And I'm gonna start to do videos in English actually now, because now I feel more comfortable with English, and then I'm gonna start doing English.
Amazing. So yeah, I'll share it there. You can still just get an idea, even if you don't understand Portuguese, you can still get an idea of what he's doing. But I did see it. There was somebody had their hand up before, and it's down.
OJ, you had your hand up before. Did you want to ask a question?
Yeah. Okay, I put my camera on. Hi everyone. All right. Thanks, Maya and Filipe, for that wonderful presentation. I think one of my challenges was has been already answered. You've responded to that. That is the freezing part. But the other thing that is also challenging is the area of asking questions, because sometimes you plan to ask questions and then you have so many questions running into your head, and then you want to ask all of them, and then the time is not also available. So how do you work through this to try to scale it down to have maybe 3, 4, 5 questions that you can ask someone? Thank you.
You want me to take this one, or Filipe?
Yeah, well, for me, I would say you can always write down the questions. And if it's like you have to choose between a number of questions, you always, what I do, like when I have topics to talk about, and imagine that I have 10 topics in this paper, and I have to choose 3. I'm gonna first start, okay, from this 10, I'm gonna cut half off, and then I'm gonna choose the most important ones for me. Then I'm gonna have 5. And then, okay, I still have to go for 3 once. You can ask help for other people. I think this is super important. Maybe your point of view for an interview cannot be the best one. And even if it's the best one, it's not the only one. And when you are doing an interview, you should try to be like, try to do not only personal questions, like about like, not just what you think is important for you. Probably, I think I would ask for some friends, for some people in the area that might be interested in talk about this topic as well. And then finally, I'm gonna choose, okay, so maybe for me, this is the most important ones, but okay, now let's go with this, and this. And then you finally choose 3. But maybe I think Maya can add something else about this, more technical.
Yeah, no, I think that what Filipe said was very good. Preparation in advance, I think really, really helps in this area, because then avoids you just adding and adding and adding questions. A really useful way of avoiding that kind of scenario where you just keep asking and asking and asking is actually think about the response that they're going to give you. So quite often you'll be asking questions that have very similar answers when you think about what they're going to be elaborating. And if you think about the questions that have very similar answers or have symmetry in the answers, you can often combine those questions together. Think about how you can combine the wording in a way that you can actually touch multiple points, 2 points, 3 points, 4 points, and just condense it down in one question. Or you could even, another way is to have one main question if there's ones with the sort of like similar topics or similar answers, and then have subsections within that. So you can have like the general one and then a follow-up question and a follow-up question. But again, always on the mindset of like, try not to ask too many, because it is quite tiring, being the interviewee. It's exhausting. So, they're going to generally have better responses with fewer answers, because they're not going to have to like worry too much about what's happening next about processing. We had a question in the chat from Sharif about, what if you don't like your interviewee? How can you be neutral? That's an interesting question.
This is an interesting question. Well, with me, it never happens because, as they said, my experience is more from my YouTube channel. So usually, most part of the times, I do things that I really want to do. This helps a lot. If we go back from the prep and we talk about motivation, I always do what I really want to do. And I think I always feel super comfortable on it. So I'm also curious, what should I do if it's my work? Like, if someone asks me, okay, you have to do this interview, and I'm not agree with the same points of view of this person, I would try to keep neutral, of course. Otherwise, there's no point to, if it's an interview, it's not like not a fight is not the word, but we are not like trying to defend different points. If it's an interview and I really want to know about the other person, again, you just have to be ready for this, prep in advance, and follow the questions. Don't freestyle that much, because otherwise you can start to like talk about personal points, ask things that the person is not feeling comfortable to answer about. And you, Maya, have you ever has to interview someone or talk about some topic that you don't want to talk about?
Yes. I mean, so when I was a journalist, I used to write about very, very dry topics. So you're not always massively interested or invested in the topic that you're writing about. But I suppose it's just a case of remembering that it's not really about you in a way. You're just a vessel by which to get the message across. So your interview is about the people who are interested in this topic. So you really just have to treat yourself like you're a neutral person, and just thinking, this is for my audience. What would my audience want to know? What do they find interesting? And and with that kind of attitude, you can interview about anything. At one point, I used to write about a specific type of metal that goes into the construction of buildings. And my family still jokes about how boring that is, but there are very interesting elements about it. But you can interview about anything. Right.
Cool.
Does anybody else have any questions that they want to ask? If not, I have a question, but I'll give it a couple of seconds for anybody else.
Not questions, but I wouldn't mind just taking a minute to talk about some of the use cases for interviews in scouting, if you want. Would that be okay?
Sorry, how do you use it?
Yeah, I wanted to talk about some of the use cases for interviews just at the end here, if that's okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Cool. So yeah, I was just thinking, because now that you've talked about how to do the interviews, and I know Filipe already alluded to the sharing portion of that, but obviously it's good to have an idea before you're doing these interviews of how you're actually going to use them. We said video because for me, video is the most versatile, because you can do like longer form interviews that go onto Facebook or YouTube. You can cut out small, like the most amazing 15-second clip of that can become a reel for Instagram. But also you can turn any video content into an article or a blog for your website. You can either transcribe it and then have the content there, which is amazing for improving your searchability on Google and having new content for your website that's linked to video content. So there's so many different like formats that you can use for it. But also thinking about, you know, the types of stories that you'll tell in those. I mean, this is a really, really great way to share about projects that are being done by Scouts if you're really looking to inspire other people to join the Scout movement, which of course, you know, we're always looking to grow our membership, then it's a way to tell those stories that will make other young people or parents of Scouts excited to join Scouting. So those are some of the ways that you can actually use these skills that Maya and Filipe are sharing with you.
Well said. Those
Cool,
are
thank
really
you.
important points. Yeah, I mean, you'd be amazed at how much how much mileage you can get out of a video interview.
Exactly.
You can use it for so many things. And I mean, if you're at an NSO that's lucky enough to have like multiple communications, you know, officers, you know, also that's something to bear in mind. It's like get their input with questions. What do you need this? How can I possibly do this interview that can create a product for you?
Yeah, exactly. And I always encourage, you know, in all of the social media workshops that we do, repurpose. It's not like you record that, you know, if it's a 4-minute interview, you record it, publish it, and you never touch it again. No, you can probably share that again in 2 or 3 months. You can, like I said, make smaller clips out of it. You can make some interesting captions with quotes from that person. There's so many opportunities to use that. Obviously, like if it's good, if it's not good, sometimes we just have to set things aside. But if it's good, keep using it. You know, you don't have to always be creating brand new content every day. We could never do that. It's just impossible. Even at WOSM, where we have, you know, a small team in place of staff, we're not able to do that. So you cannot do that as an NSO. It's just not possible. So find ways to repurpose that amazing content once you have it.
Okay, any other questions? We're actually at the time of our session. So perhaps if we don't have any further questions, I can't see anything in the chat. Although thank you so much to everybody who put their questions
For sharing the
to Bear
questions. Yeah.
Grylls. Yeah, and they're really
If I
interesting.
interview him someday, if I interview Bear Grylls someday, I definitely gonna use these questions. Okay.
That's awesome. Okay, well, if there's nothing else to say, then I guess we'll bring this session to a close. Thank you so much, everyone, for attending, who could stay, you know, who had to drop off earlier, could stay the whole way through. That was great. Thank you so much to Lynn for, you know, for all her contributions and for the introduction and the questions and everything. And of course, a huge thanks to Filipe for his wonderful insight. And I encourage everybody to check out his YouTube channel. Always Bear not stepping by. If only, if you could hit us up with an interview, that would be great.
One day, one day.
One day. Okay, thank you so much all. We'll be putting this recording up online for anybody who missed it but wants to watch it again. Okay.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.